Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be reviewing the brand new Kizer Drop Bear Fixed 7. I got a chance to handle these at Blade Show, and I got to say I was super excited about this. I love the Drop Bear and every different variation that comes out of it. So it comes with this nice 2-port Kydex. You got a drainage hole at the bottom, tons of different lashing points, so you can put pretty much whatever type of clip you want on here. Their 2-port Kydex come with this retention screw right there. So if this starts to loosen up over time, you can tighten this up and make it a little stronger. But right now, nice positive click, absolutely no rattle, and this is a heavier fixed blade. They come standard with this rotatable belt loop attachment, so you carry it vertical carry, and what I do like about these is how quickly you can swap it to different carries. So right now, like I said, it's vertical carry, and I like how they put this little shelf right here, so it brings it above the thick portion, and what that does is it keeps it off the body a little bit. Because I don't like when my fixed blade's rubbing against my body. That's why I don't carry vertical carry too much unless I got a dangler on it or something. Nice comfortable spot to push off on. We'll talk about the sheath a little bit more later. In my personal opinion, I think this would be a good survival knife, a truck knife, something that should be able to handle just about everything you need it to, plus, a great camp knife and a nice full-size fixed blade. Comes in 2 different variations. I don't think there's any other variants right now. You can either get it in this one that has aeb-l steel and micarta scales, or you can get it all blacked out with black micarta and black traction coating 1095 high carbon steel. So if you're trying to choose between the two, is it more important for you to have a stainless like it is for me because I live here in the South and carbon steels rust rather easily for me? Or are you looking for something even tougher than aeb-l steel? Go with the 1095. And 1095 is just a hair easier to sharpen in the field. aeb-l is not hard to sharpen either in the field, especially if you have like a work sharp field sharpener. That's what I recommend. And at the end of this, if you're interested in picking up one of the Kizer Drop Bear Fixed 7 fixed blades, I will link them both down below as well. So like I said, this is a larger fixed blade coming in at 11.8 inches overall with a 6.51 inch drop point blade. Nice raw stonewash finish that should hide wear really well. Got a top swedge that thins out the tip just a little bit, but if you look at that tip, you got a very, very stout tip there. You should be able to do some decent prying with this. We will test that in just a minute. And if you're worried about prying with the aeb-l version, I'm sure the 1095 should be able to handle it no problem. Your blade has fullers on both sides of the blade, more for like an aesthetic flair there. You got a nice long functional row of grippy jimping on the spine for some added control there. Plus, you also have jimping underneath this forward finger choil. If you decide to choke up, just keeps your finger a little bit more steady so you don't accidentally come up on this edge. When it comes to the steel choice for the stainless, I think aeb-l was a great option because it has excellent toughness, especially for a stainless steel, and it has very fine grain structure, allowing it to be able to take a very thin edge. So if you wanted to put a 15-degree per side edge on it, it can handle that easily. And you can put whatever type of edge and it's still going to perform great. You can put a mirror polished edge, or you can put a very rough coarse edge on it. And not to mention, when it comes to aeb-l, 14C, Nitro V, those three are very similar steels. And when it comes to those three, those are the sharpest edges I've ever gotten in my life. And I've sharpened a lot of knives since I've been in this hobby, especially aeb-l and 14C. Now, of course, if you put a 14-degree or 15-degree per side edge on this, it's definitely not going to be as tough as whatever bevel they put on it from factory, because I'm sure it's a pretty obtuse bevel. aeb-l also, like I said earlier, sharpens up easily. It responds really well to stropping. And of course, all that is dependent on the heat treat. Kizer does a quality job, especially here lately. They've been doing a great job. I don't know what they're rockwelling these fixed blades to. I'm sure they might have lowered it a little bit, being that probably going more for the toughness here. And those three steels also have excellent corrosion resistance. You have a very stout 0.186 inch blade stock thickness, or 4.77 millimeters, with a flat grind that comes down to a whopping 39 thousandths behind the edge. So this one should be very, very tough. And I don't know about y'all, but I'm interested to see how this one performs on some of the lighter tasks. Let's find out. I gotta admit, I was pretty interested to see how something like this is gonna perform, because it's been a hot minute since I've done any type of testing like this with a survival knife or a bigger, thicker knife. But of course, this one came with the screaming sharp edge out of box, and it's gonna slice really well. The only time you might start to notice the resistance from that thicker edge or thicker behind the edge is maybe triple wall cardboard whenever it's putting a lot more density on the sides of the grind. But doing stuff like this, it's just using that apex of the edge. And of course, I think it's going through it really, really nicely, especially for such a big knife. Now, wanted to make sure you could do these finer tasks. You know, in that forward choil area, I was choked up. Anytime I was cutting in hand, I was choked up. It's just a lot more balanced right there. I can control it a lot better, and I'm not really trying to make feather sticks per se, but you could if you wanted to. I just wanted to see if there's any hot spots. Didn't notice anything. It was very, very comfortable. That swell in the handle is comfortable. The choke spot's comfortable. Then, even though this is probably not something you'd be doing a lot of if you were using this as like a survival knife, I just wanted to make sure it could do it. Got the perfect amount of belly. I already knew the actual blade design is going to work great because I've tested now 4 or 5 drop bears on the channel, and it's an excellent blade shape, versatile, can handle just about anything. And yeah, it's making sharp work of the sisal rope, no problem whatsoever. And of course, that heavier blade is going to make it go through the material a little bit easier because I'm not having to exert as much force. And now we're just checking out the finer things. And yeah, I was going to try to use that tip to do a drag cut, but you're going to have to use that belly. The tip is more suited for prying. So not bad at all so far. And so far so good. It was fun to test. And it handled all the lighter duty stuff. Absolutely no issues whatsoever. We even threw some extra little pieces of the rubber in there just to make sure it wasn't going to cause any kind of extra friction. Then of course we had to see how tough this thing is. So this piece of wood right here, I don't know if you can see that big knot. This is kiln dried wood that we put in our fire pit. It's been sitting in my garage for 3 years now. It's super dry. Just showing you the waviness. And then that piece right there, or actually that one, see that knot went straight through it like butter. This stuff, I put that piece aside because I was scared because it would probably break anything else. One shot, boom, nothing, just as I expected. Yeah, very, very tough, and we got to keep going, you know that. So just showing you the tip right there. Do some light prying. We did some pretty hard ones. I did speed it up a little bit because I didn't want this to be an hour long. But yeah, that thick tip, of course you could break any tip, but you know, with moderate prying, you're going to be perfectly fine. I was yanking on it pretty darn hard, and there was a couple of them, you can see me look at it, a couple of them where I heard a snap, but it was just the wood snapping. I didn't expect it to, but you never know. You know, it could have poor heat treat on it or something, causing it to pop. But aeb-l and 14C are super tough steels for stainlesses. Got to do a little bit of tip testing here on some aluminum. It's very thin aluminum. And yeah, it's going to blunt the edge. It did blunt the edge where I was going through it, but that's to be expected now. Step it up to some galvanized steel. Not super thick either, but I've ruined some edges doing this test. Yeah, I was so amazed on how wide the penetration spot was on this galvanized, and it was going through it with look how light I'm coming down with the thrusting motion. Absolutely nothing to that tip. Didn't really expect it to do anything, but you never know. Great job, Kizer. Yeah, I thought it performed great, everything I did. It didn't feel like I was trying to use a splitting maul to cut that stuff. I don't know exactly what the edge bevel set at, but you know, when I got done with the testing, that's why I said I think this would be a good survival knife. It was able to handle everything great, you know, jack of all trades. master of none, it did all the littler tasks very well, and then the harder use stuff, it did great also. Now let's check out that edge after I did all the batoning and after I stabbed it through that aluminum mailbox thingy and that galvanized steel. As far as the tip goes, the very end, as you can see there, is blunted. It's just rounded over. I was still penetrating that galvanized effortless. Now the aluminum did, as you can see, dull out this section right here. It kind of rolled the edge. Now this is the factory edge too, which could be brittle at the very apex depending on how they sharpen them, but very minimal. Some of that could be from the galvanized. That'll come out after the first sharpening. Let's see from the batoning. I don't know if y'all saw, that was seasoned wood that we put in our fire pit outside. You got these very comfortable, contoured and grippy micarta scales on this one. Nice palm swell, fills out the hand really nicely. You got jimping that goes into the scales and into the tank back here, right here, underneath here. Over here, you got jimping all over the place. Now, it does give you extra traction, no doubt, but I didn't find it to be uncomfortable, and I have neuropathy, so usually I hate jimping underneath, but it wasn't bad. A lot of times I had gloves on anyway. These are bolt-on scales, and look at those massive fasteners. I do like the fact that you can either use a Phillips to remove these or a flathead, and then these two, you can use a Phillips flathead or a 3/16 inch Allen key right here fits there perfectly. Now, I didn't take these scales off. I'm guessing this side of the Chicago screw is captured because I don't think there's any like tooling on this side, and all you have to do to tighten it up, you don't have to hold back up or anything. Being that you have these Chicago screws that go through and through like that, as you can see, you have two spots to tie a lanyard. They give you some paracord. You can pass paracord through the Chicago screw and either tie a lanyard off back here if you want to do some light chopping from back here so you don't accidentally let it go. They also put a through hole up here in the front, so run it through here, then tie this however you want to where you can fit your hand in there, and if you could be holding it like this so it doesn't come flying out of your hand either. Both of them work good. If you want to fix this to a long stick, make it a spear, I'm sure you could do that as well. But no matter which grip I hold this one in, it's nice and comfortable. You know, if I need to stab it into a log so I can make a feather stick, it's comfortable. You have an exposed pommel here on the end, attitude adjuster, whatever you want to use it for. Say if you had a coconut or something and you want to try to crack it open with this butt end, you can do that. And this thing is an absolute tank. Nothing gave this knife any trouble, and I can't wait to sharpen it up so I can put it right back into service. I love that they put that forward choil on here, especially being that you have enough usable edge. So whenever you want to do those fine feather sticks or something like that, whenever I was doing them, it's very comfortable. They did a really good job of balancing this knife out for how big it is. Your weight with the Kydex sheath and the belt loop attachment comes in at 15.69 ounces. Just the knife alone with the micarta scales comes in at 11.78 ounces. Just enough to where if you want to do some light snap chopping, it's got enough blade heft to it to do some light chopping. I thought it did great batoning. Now this knife does have a bevel going along the spine, so if you're somebody who wants this for striking a ferro rod, they could have maybe left one of the sides right here on the pommel so you could, with it in the sheath, you could scrape the ferro rod. So if that's something you do all the time or you wanting to do if you bought this, then that might be a deal breaker for you. If you had to, you could use the edge. Not something I'll ever do unless my life depended on it. But like I said, the balance point for as big of a knife as this is, the balance point is right there in that forward finger choil area. It's hard for me to do to get it perfect because it's really like where the scale ends right there. That's pretty impressive. So choked up, it's not gonna be blade heavy, butt heavy. It's right there in that center line of gravity for you when you're trying to really control that edge so it doesn't feel like it's weighing you down to where it's gonna fatigue your wrist forearms because you're trying to keep it from going down or dropping. This one was just a joy to use. Now time for some size comparisons, and it was tough. I don't think I had any that are exactly the same length. However, it's just a hair shorter than the Bag Knives Alligator Harpoon fixed blade, and it's a decent bit bigger than the Kizer. I know I'm a butcher this one, but metapropyzole, whatever you say it. And it's just a hair longer than the Work Tough Gear Wolverine. and it's a little longer than this Conwero fixed blade. I don't know if it actually has a name. And lastly, it's dwarfed by the K-Bar Becker BK9. I think it would have been a lot more similar to the BK7, but I don't have that one, unfortunately. And it's a decent bit bigger than a Cold Steel SRK. And one thing I forgot to mention, if you're a bushcrafter or you like doing bushcraft tasks, your bolt in the middle on one side has a bow drill divot if that's something you enjoy doing. Not something I'll probably ever do. I don't think I could actually get it done. So not something I care too much about, but if that's something you like, there you go. Well, since no night's perfect, what are my nitpicks and complaints? I really don't have a whole lot. Only thing that is not something that bugs me too bad, but they could have put us a sharpening notch right here. You can see it kind of recurving right here. Whenever I go to sharpen this back up, I'll probably cut me a little notch in right here, just a small one. I don't want to get hung up in that area, but it would have been nice if it would have came from factory like that, so I didn't have to do it myself. Just makes sharpening way easier, and I won't run into this thicker plunge grind portion. It's gonna be very hard to get this whole portion in the back right there sharpened, because you're gonna have to sharpen this thicker portion. It's gonna get wider, it's gonna take a lot longer. And because of that, the edge is a little wavy. Not terrible, and not something I'm too worried about, because once I put my own edge on it, I'm gonna get it even on both sides. The Kizer Drop Bear Fix 7 in this variation with the aeb-l steel and micarta scales comes in at $90. The all black with black micarta, black traction coating, and 1095 high carbon steel is $10 cheaper at $80. Do I think it's worth the 90 or 80 bucks? Well, being that I don't own the 1095 variant, I can't really speak on that one. I'm not a huge fan of 1095 just because it doesn't hold the best edge. Sure, it might be a hair easier to sharpen in the field, but I don't have any issues whatsoever putting a quick edge back on it if I got this with me. I definitely don't think that $90 is out of line for a huge slab of aeb-l steel, or $80 for 1095. Because I know this is overseas made, but like I said, I'm not exactly sure how big the BK7 is, but if I had to take a guess, it's probably way more comparable. The BK7 you can get for like 127 bucks in 1095 on Amazon, but that is USA made with the K-Bar warranty, so all that is factored in there. Instead of that janky nylon sheath that K-Bar sends these out with, this one comes with the Kydex sheath. It comes with a belt loop attachment that's functional. Love the fact that it's already ready to carry the way I kind of like it. You have that retention screw if you need to make it a little bit tighter. So yeah, at $90, I can highly recommend this if this is something you're looking for. If you go camping a lot, I think this would be a great camping fixed blade. You could do food prep with it rather easily, and baton if you need to make some kindling, make some feather sticks. That aeb-l strops back very easy, just like the 1095 strops back pretty darn easy. So yeah, I'm very interested to hear y'all thoughts. Do y'all like the fact that Kizer did a big version of the Drop Bear? And that's gonna wrap up today's video. If you're interested in picking up one of these, I will have both variations linked down below in the description. They will be affiliate links. So if you want to help support what I do here in this channel, that helps me pay for those testing materials that I use all the time. I can't thank you enough. If not, no sweat at all. I just enjoy having y'all here. All right, guys and girls, I hope every single one of y'all is having a remarkable day today. And remember, keep these blades sharp. Smile more. Bye.